Blue Dog Radio. Get out there and blast. Or whatever. I don't care.
Hey blasters, and welcome to another edition of the Blue Dog Blasting Radio Podcast. So this is finally our official episode 1. And like we discussed in our first episode about what we're going to be doing in our episodes, this episode is going to feature new technology. So we came across a company out there that claims to be making kind of a brand new pot and reinventing the wheel a little bit for us sandblasters. So we figured, what a great opportunity, get a phone call all the way across the pond and bring you somebody to talk about a new machine. And who better to talk about this guy than my boy Kev.
All right, Shawn. So I've been looking forward to talking to this guy for quite some time. He's here to introduce himself, his company, and tell us a little bit about his new technology he's developed to support the abrasive blast industry. He is the CEO and Managing Director of Flowtech International. Shawn, let's welcome Jason McKenna. What's up, Jason?
Hi, Shawn. Hi, Kevin. So Flowtech International is a new company that designs the Flowtech system. It's the world's first dual induction blasting system that works without a pressure vessel. We're very familiar with dustless blasting, the likes of the Amphi-Blast, things like that currently on the market, which are both good machines. But we've developed a new type of technology which takes away from using a pressure vessel, gives you much more safety, half the downtime, and also half the weight of the actual system. The systems work completely different in that you don't have to fill it through a small orifice. You can go straight to work. You don't have 5 or 6 stops a day. The machine can work 24/7 if need be. It's the first of its type in the world.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, so I was thinking before we kind of get in, because I know Shawn and I have a ton of questions for you about this. Yes. We're definitely very interested in this technology. I haven't seen it over here in the US yet, but can you walk us a little bit through your history in the industry, or before that, what you were doing before you got into the abrasive blast?
Yeah, well, in my background, my career started in classic car restoration back in 2008. I ran a company called Media Blasting Services. I operated several different brands of wet and dry blasting systems, which I all found had issues with blockages, blasting performance, and downtime whilst on job sites. It was really from there where I had my spin-off of a great idea to develop the world's first selectable wet and dry blasting system. I founded a company called Blast Equipment in 2015. And there we designed, developed, and patented the world's first selectable dry wet blasting system. We built the company up from very small beginnings, exported the equipment worldwide. I sold the company back in 2018, and then went on to form Flowtech International Limited and developed a new technology, which we have now.
Nice. Well, welcome, Jason. We definitely thank you for coming on to the podcast and talking about your machine and a little bit about your background and everything.
Yep.
So Flowtech International, first and foremost, we definitely want to plug you a little bit. How can people try to find you on the webs or on the internet?
Yeah, well, we have our website, Flowtech International. We're on Instagram. We update daily. LinkedIn. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We have more videos coming soon of the machines being used in many applications, classic car restoration, and everything in between.
Cool.
So kind of walk us, I'm always interested to hear this from business owners, especially a guy as young as you. Can you kind of walk us through the first year, some of the struggles? I was doing my research on you, and you had mentioned, what was it, EcoBlast?
EcoBlast, we rebranded to GeoBlast, and it's now been rebranded to Gladiator International Limited. Yeah. So.
Yep. I heard that you got the support of a bunch of investors. I'm actually embarrassed that it was the first time, but it was Angel. I'm trying to find the note here. You guys have like the angel investors or something? I know we
Yeah,
have
we do. We have
like that in North
we have an
Carolina.
investor network in the UK.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
similar. Yeah. I basically sold out the company in 2018 to founding shareholders to form Flowtech International Limited. Flowtech now has the backing of another investment professional in the quarrying industry. So we have somebody with global experience of selling equipment in the company as well. So yeah, that's how it all began. Obviously, it's come from here,
Yeah,
but we have good connections with people who have
it's good.
developed the
Good.
business to make it what it is.
And Shawn and I on a daily basis, well, actually not more. Shawn professionally, me kind of just personally trying to get a better idea of the mobile blast industry and the abrasive blast. All of them pretty much are business owners, and they had their struggles coming into it. They learned. Just kind of walk us through the first year, maybe some of the struggles, some of the things that you probably wish you would have known before getting started.
Yeah, well, back in Geoblast, everything was always about the customer and what. Maybe going into starting the industry, we always maybe had the idea it would be simply a build and sell sort of scenario, but it's never that case. We find it's always could be a 6-hour interaction with the customer before we actually come to selling equipment. And even after that, it's a constant relationship of a customer coming back and needing advice, support, and constant care and attention to support them in what they're doing in their jobs. And that's always seems to be part of the sale. Although we don't get paid for that, we have to provide it. So that was something, a learning curve, was developing that customer support platform to make sure that our customers can do the jobs that the equipment is there to do. As well as that, gaining a lot of insight from pressure blast equipment. We've seen a lot of downsides with moisture contamination and pots blocking up on site, especially with dry blasting systems, but also with vapor and wet blasting pots. And that's really where we developed the Flowtech technology from, through our own use on job sites and through customer feedback as well.
So you went from operator to manufacturer slash inventor owner?
Yes, yeah. We started very much as a media blasting company, and I think we just had about every piece of equipment in the world in terms of our system, Clamco pots, and everything in between. We bought them both new and used, and we did not like any of them, to be honest. Clamco are probably obviously industry standard. They're as good as it gets that way, but they have a lot of downsides, and we just find terrible issues with them, which I'm sure other people out there are having too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we come across a lot of, so I'm in sales. I think I've told you that. We are a rep for Empire. Are you aware of Empire?
Yes, I know Empire, yeah.
So when we're talking about wet and dry blasters, typically what I come across in my travels are either the Clemco Flex, which I believe is a water induction, where the water is introduced at either the grip valve or the nozzle. Then you got Graco. I believe that's water induction. I might be wrong there, so correct me if I'm wrong.
The Graco, the vapor blast EcoQuip.
Yeah, the EcoQuip. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a vapor blast water saturated pot.
Okay, so it's in the pot. And the big name around here is dustless blasting or dustless.
Yes.
So
yeah, the best of the wet blasting pressure pots, I think. Yeah.
So that's where I'm a little confused. When I looked at your unit, so I deal a lot with the Empire pressure and suction cabinets, and when I first saw your unit, I see almost like a gun, like a suction unit, where you got media coming through the hose and it's being pulled by the air coming out your second hose. I'm guessing there's a big difference than the suction.
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
No, we don't. It's not like suction technology. The suction blast guns like are about 50% less efficient than your pressure blast pots. Mainly that's why people don't use them, but we use a system that actually has driven media, so it's got a heavy duty adductor on the machine that fires the media from the hopper up to the nozzle at speed but at low pressure. And then it's really within the nozzle, that's where the alignment happens and the abrasive comes out at very high speed. So it's maybe comparable to water jet technology, if you're familiar with.
Yeah. So
Um,
they're double teaming. They're working.
yeah, double teaming, and we get the performance of a pressure blast pot without using a pressure vessel.
Gotcha. That clears it up for me.
But
Yeah,
we
and
carry the abrasive is carried at lower pressure, so we don't really get abrasive wear in the hose, and we get safer for the operator. If there's a hose tear or something, we don't get injuries, like you would get with ordinary sets. So.
very cool, man. Very cool technology. And when I was looking at it, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat was the grit valve. So when
Yeah.
you're metering your abrasive through that pot to go in, you just had to switch a little turn dial. How's that work?
Yeah, well, the abrasive valve is actually a pneumatic control valve, so it's hooked up to a little pressure regulator, and we actually control the orifice size within the valve. It's normally closed, so when you're not blasting, you don't get any media through the pot, and that's a standard fit. So basically, by varying the pressure, you get more media, and by turning pressure down, you get less media. So it's a nice little system. Yeah.
Very cool.
While we're talking about that, I got two questions for you. So first of all, I've looked at, you got 3 units right now, right? You got the FT, sorry, I got to look at my notes. I don't have a great memory, but FT
Yep.
180GS, which is a vapor or wet dry, the 180G, which is the same.
Yep.
And then the new one is the FT 180B, which is only dry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about capacity for the first two, for media and the water tank or whatever water source you're using, and then
Yeah.
on the dry as well?
Yeah, well, the 180B is just a dry version of the 180G. It's a 7-bag, 725 kg pot, 90 liter. It holds about 180 kilograms or so of abrasive. The 180GS is the same, but in a modular frame, with its own built-in water supply of about 250 liters. And both are the same sort of system.
Shawn, you're going to have to do the conversion for me for the kilograms to pounds.
Kilograms.
That's what I was so nervous about this, the last couple of days. Is like, I'm looking at all this stuff. I came on and talked to Shawn before you got on. We were talking about your nozzle, and I was like, dude, I just looked at his nozzle sizing, and it was standard number 10.
So, millimeters. No, they're not.
Yeah,
no, we
yeah.
use our own number.
So I had
Number
to go,
10.
That's why Google is the greatest invention of all time, because I quickly figured that out. So it's 5/8 inch for that. So I printed up this morning the abrasive consumption chart, and this thing is severely outdated. But I was just looking at, so if you're at 3/8 capacity for the nozzle, and you're running at 100 psi, that's 1,260 pounds per hour. Do you guys find an effective way to meter that down? Do you have any data on actually that 100 psi at 3/8, how much media you're going to use?
We have exhaustive charts analysis of, and you know that they work out just about the same. Consumption wise, there's no real difference. It's the same thing. If you want to get work done, you have to use abrasive. So there's a lot of companies out there now that are claiming to have such low abrasive consumption, but there's no real evidence to back that up. We find the Clamco standard is a standard of what you need to get work done.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to take a step back for a second. The water induction pots that you have, or I'm sorry, the vapor pots that you have, how is that water introduced? Is it's not at the pot from what I saw. Is it in the hose? It is in the nozzle. Can you go over that a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually the water's injected in at pressure and at the induction valve itself. So it's sprayed in with the abrasive at the machine itself, and then actually it all forms one up at the nozzle. Then yeah, so it happens at the machine, but it's by the time it gets to the nozzle exit, it's well mixed and well saturated.
Is that after the grit valve or at the grit valve?
At the grit valve, yeah, at the machine, yeah.
And are you using like a freshwater line or is it a reservoir tank?
On the 180GS system, we have a built-in water tank. On the G, we simply have a standard type garden hose fitting at the bottom of the panel, which you can connect up. But also the machine will draw from an IBC tank or a standard water tank as well.
So you can do rust inhibitors as well as just hooking to a regular line.
You can, on the GS, you can put the rust stuff into the water tank, or on the GS, on the standard G, sorry, you can either use a Venturi to suck water in with the water feed, or you can spray rust stuff after it's blasted.
So I got kind of a loaded question here for you. The first one, this is the salesman in me wanting to know these things. You have somebody already as a distributor out in Iowa, correct?
Yeah, there's an already dealer up there, yeah.
Okay, so who in the U.S., maybe a Clemco or the EcoQuip or Dustless Blaster, who do you see as your main competition? So if I'm here in the U.S. selling your equipment, whose equipment am I looking to replace and say, hey, we got something that's does the same thing, but does it a little bit better or a lot more better?
Yeah, well, we're designing more and more machines every day. We have a large range following the range we have now. We've really designed them with versatility to replace all types of blasting pots on the market. So the likes of blast pots in your blast rooms, which I'm sure Empire would have and things like that. Yeah. We would see them as a direct replacement there, where they don't have to wait and stop to fill the pot each time. They can run continuously and vastly increase the production. And as well as that, we see them as direct replacements for wet and dry blast pots, such as Graco and Dustless Blasters.
Gotcha.
Yeah, being able to fill that pot like that is awesome. When I was watching the videos on YouTube, and I highly suggest anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about what we're talking about here, go over to your YouTube channel. And when you because there's no pop-up, because it's not pressurized, you have an open pot, almost like a hopper. So you're just pouring it in as the guy is blasting. So, I mean, usually you kind of have a two-man system anyways, anytime somebody's blasting. There's a lot of guys that can do it single-handedly, but, to be efficient, it's a two-man job. And to have some guy just pouring in while you're blasting, that's awesome.
Yeah, or even to have a little break in between blasting, it's very easy work to fill the pot, rather than having to wait through the orifice and stand for 20 minutes at a time, if not more. So.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When I watch your video several times, and I'm waiting. I can't wait to see some more. Actually, can't wait to see this live. But the thing that stands out to me on your website is you guys state it, but also your reviews on there. You got some great reviews, and the system offers 50% increase in productivity over the pressurized blasting systems. Can you kind of talk us through where that number comes from? Is it more because you're not having to stop blasting, they can keep refilling, or is it just more efficient than a normal pressure?
Yeah. We haven't really included that stop blasting figure within that. The actual performance of the machine, we haven't really showcased it yet, but it's about 35% more efficient than a pressure blast pot. So shortly we'll see a video coming of a standard Clemco type pot blasting with same pressures, and you'll see the blasting orifice or stripping effect is much quicker than what you would get from a pressure blast pot. The technology is very complex, but basically, we don't rely on abrasives that's coming through a blast hose that has friction. We carry the abrasives at low pressure, and really ultimately it's the high velocity air only that does the actual driving force of stripping. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's something I've been looking forward to, is seeing a apples to apples. I guess you can't say apples to apples, but a test against a pressure unit. Shawn and I do a ton of those types of tests.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
That's our unicorn right there, is doing apples to apples, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully, I get the chance to do that soon in person and actually compare it against another unit. Yeah.
Very cool. Hey, so I'm a numbers guy, man. I'm loving when you're starting to talk about percentages and efficiencies and everything else. So some of your calculation on efficiency is the time frame in which you get work done. What about your abrasive consumptions and everything else?
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a lot of variables in there with pressures and things like that. I mean, the systems work at 15 psi up to 100 psi, and we have various different nozzle sets matching with the industry standard nozzles. But abrasive consumption is typically largely the same as a chemical pot.
Yeah, Shawn, you were talking about this the other day. So we've struggled in the past when we have a customer that's blasting something like a delicate piece, or maybe they're doing concrete and they don't want to chip away at it, so they have to bring their PSI down to like 15. And we find that really the only way for us to do that, correct me if I'm wrong, Shawn, is to get a electric dead man on there. Is that?
No, you almost have to reposition your valves. A lot of problem with the pressure pots are the valve actuators that tell that pot when to blast and when not to blast are spring loaded, and those springs have to do with a certain pounds per square inch to turn on and off. And a lot of times the way that things are configured on the pot, your blast pressure is almost regulated by how much pressure it's going to take to turn that valve on. So if it's a 60-pound valve, you're blasting that 60 pounds, man. So your system, you can go down to 15 psi. That's basically taking a handful of abrasive and throwing it.
Yeah, well, we actually say 15 psi because in wet blasting, we find that's what really you need to get work done. But in dry blasting, you can bring it right down to 2 psi if you want. I mean, our solenoid valve for the air is actuated at 1 psi, so we can bring the machine way down if need be. So.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just give a realistic figure, to get work done.
So what about ergonomics? So Shawn hears me complain every time we do a test. I'm usually the one doing the blasting, and after about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, yeah. Go ahead and have your fun over there, Shawn. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I go home the next day. For the next week, my back is out. So do you guys have any any things that keep your operators comfortable, make it easier on them?
The hoses are about half the weight of the pressure blast hoses. So we use a thin wall blast hose for the media, and we actually use an oil and gas type lay flat hose for the air, which runs alongside that. So it's about half the weight of your heavy blast hoses, and we have a lightweight blast nozzle as well, so makes it a lot easier to hold it.
Gotcha.
Along those lines, with your system, is there pretty much just a one size hose? Because with a lot of the American systems, depending on how much CFM, how big your compressor is, how big nozzle you are, you start to vary up your hose anywhere from about 1/2 inch all the way up to 1.25 inches.
Yeah, well, we designed the standard sets to work around an entry 6 mil nozzle, and we find that works just fine with 32 mil ID blast hose, which is efficient right up to the biggest 12 mil nozzle. So we don't feel the need to change it, but we could adapt that without issue if need be. But it works just fine the way it is. So.
Cool.
So Shawn, he kind of makes his money off of wear items. So he sells all the nozzles, hoses, valves, couplings, and everything. Can you talk about some of the common wear items on your machine and how often do they typically need to be replaced? If put it in perspective of blast hours, maybe.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Sean, there's not much after sales on wear items on the Flowtech system because it only has really one wear item, which is the blast nozzle outlet. Everything else is not really exposed to much abrasive wear, and that's the main wear item in the system. Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, you know what they say, if you can't beat them, join them. So sign me up, man.
Sean will just have to sell the equipment.
You have to sell more equipment, yeah.
So I saw double Venturi is your standard nozzle that comes with it, right?
Yeah, well, the technology is double Venturi, yeah, so that's the way it works.
I thought double induction or double Venturi?
The nozzle actual set works on the double Venturi principle, but we have the standard Flowtech nozzle is the only nozzle we use. We don't interchange with industry standard nozzles. We use our own nozzle sets.
Okay.
You had mentioned something about the spray on the double Venturi versus the long Venturi, Sean.
Yeah, I was just saying a lot of times with the double Venturi, you use it for a little bit lighter work. So if you're just out there to kick some ass off of a big rusty part, you know, you're going to go with a long Venturi and that's going to get your job done. A double Venturi has that benefit of not having the true hot spot and gives you a little bit smoother blast pattern, but generally it's for a little bit more delicate work than just out there to kick some ass. That's why when I saw that it was kind of standard, I was like, different.
Yeah, well, the actual design in terms of what is offered on standard pressure blast pots is different than what we design. But we achieve very good efficiency with what we have, and we're happy with it.
Cool.
All right, so I have a question. You got 3 units now, 2 that are wet and dry or vapor dry, the other one's dry. I asked this for a specific reason. What is your most popular selling unit right now?
Without doubt, the 180G, the wet dry portable unit.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of, I talked a little bit, I don't know if our guys over at Raw want me talking about this, but I'm on a group on Facebook. Have you heard of the Sandblast Raw page? It's a group.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, so I did a poll several times in there and just basically asking, do you guys dry blast mostly, wet blast? Do you prefer wet? Do you prefer dry? And over 90% say they will absolutely not do wet unless it's required. And then sometimes they'll turn those jobs down. So what their answer to that is, I got a dry pot. If I need to go wet, I'll use the wind nozzle. How would you sell that your machine to them? Or is it impossible?
A wind nozzle is not a safe solution, and the water could be shut off at any time. There's no safety. The Flowtech system has a built-in sensor, so if your water supply is ceased or kinked or somebody turns the water off, your abrasive will shut down, so it won't actually let you blast if you don't have water supply. A wind nozzle can wear out. They're expensive. You have to keep replacing them, and I just don't like them.
Trust me, you're gonna, if you I don't know if you checked out our different YouTube pages, but we just did our what is it, 3rd attempt at the wind nozzle test. So yeah. And this was our best one so far, but it was still terrible. I like the wind nozzle. It has its purpose, but we've struggled so much, and that little tube, no matter how you tighten it, I always end up yanking it out, and it's really hard for me to regulate that. So if you're gonna blast once a year wet, I can see, once or twice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And likewise with the vapor blast pots, I mean, it's so laborious to have to fill the pot through a little hole and then meter your water in and make sure you have the right amount of water and things like that. It can take 30, 40 minutes just setting the pot up before you've even started to do work, and that's hard work for guys having to do that day in, day out. Did
you say 30 or 40 minutes?
Well, up to 30 minutes setting up the pot, and a vapor blast.
We're about 2
hours.
He's a
professional.
Maybe more. Yeah, maybe an hour.
No, you're looking 2 non-blasters here. We don't have not a single callus on our hands.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a pedicure.
Yeah.
I don't do those anymore, and they're called manicures, what I used to do.
Well, I have various scars from the years. You know?
Oh, I'm sure you've been doing it for a while. So
Yeah.
So we've done many an experiment, wet versus dry, and we've pretty much blasted darn near every abrasive, both wet and dry. And if any, definitely, again, head over to this guy's YouTube page. To go from wet to dry, you flip a switch. Man, it doesn't get easier than that. What type of abrasives can you use with your setup?
You can use all types of abrasives. In particular, you can use soda, and you don't need the addition of dryer. Another benefit with the system is that you don't get moisture contamination with your abrasive. Because the air is not stored with the abrasive, it's always expelled. You can run soda all day long without a dryer.
Yeah, and that's huge. Kevin is a little bit more centralized to this area with his day job, and it usually gets hot, muggy, humid, nasty. So humidity is always a factor here. I've got the luxury of selling to the entire United States. So I've got a lot of guys that, down in Arizona, if I want to try to sell them a moisture separator, they laugh.
Well, nobody wants to buy moisture separators having after forked out a substantial amount of money for their system alone, so.
Yeah, but for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of places that moisture is a huge issue. When you're dealing with 90% humidity in the air on a 90-degree day and you're trying to blast with soda, it's going to take 10 minutes before you're stopping because there's a clump at the bottom. So with your machine, you can pretty much guarantee that moisture is not an issue whatsoever.
No, because it's always being expelled through the hoses, so it's never accumulating. So you can even use old dirty compressors if need be. I don't recommend it, but it'll work too. So.
Very cool.
You guys
speaking of compressor, unless you want to jump in, Kev.
No.
What size compressor do you recommend, or does it come with a compressor just for the guys watching?
We're currently designing the FT300C, which is an all-in-one diesel rental unit. But compressor size to run those machines, anything from 100 CFM up to 500 CFM. At 100 psi.
Cool.
I want to get back
kind
to
of standard as us.
What's that?
Pretty much same as us.
Yeah. You actually got those listed under each of the piece of equipment, the different, I think on your website, right?
Yeah, on the nozzle sizing, yeah.
We'll put all your social media, your website and everything in the little ticker at the bottom in post. But I want to jump back to the switching from wet to dry to blow off to rinse off. That's something that really stood out to me, that a lot of these units are really complicated and it takes several times going through it to really figure out how to dial stuff in. Is it that simple to switch from wet to dry when you're out there in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. It's literally just flick a switch. The logic, the control panel of the machine is a little bit complex, but it's bulletproof in terms of reliability. But you have 4 options: wet blast, dry blast, blow down, and your wash down, and it's just like a switch. Yeah. The only thing the user will have to do is maybe adjust his water flow at the side of the control panel, or adjust his abrasive flow. But typically they'll set that and they'll never change it again. They'll leave it alone. So it's very easy to use.
We were, Shawn wasn't with me on this trip, but we went out to SSPC. I don't know if you've gone to any of those.
Yes, I'm worried. Yeah.
But I saw something really cool, and I wanted to pick your brain to see if this is something you're moving towards. There was a company that had something very similar to yours, where it was very easy to switch over at the control panel or at the unit, but they developed a little box that goes near the nozzle where they can actually switch from wet to dry to blow up to rinse right there at the nozzle. Is that something?
Yeah, we can do that too. We can also give you control of abrasive at the nozzle as well by running an extra line up to the nozzle. So you can actually control it right at the nozzle along with the water as well. Yeah.
Do you have that currently, or is that something in the future?
It's an optional extra, yeah.
Oh, so you already have that as an option.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. What about rust inhibitor?
Rust inhibitor, we use rust stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can add that into the GS water tank, just the same as any other system. Or on the G machine, we have a little Venturi valve, draw the inhibitor in with the water, and spray it out with the blasting.
What if you're hooked up to like a garden hose or something? Is that something you apply afterwards?
Yeah, well, say it's part of the garden hose set, so we add in a little valve that sucks the rust inhibitor in with the water and use that. Yeah. So
Gotcha. Okay.
we find a lot of people just actually put that into like a plastic weed killer spray pot and spray that on after blasting.
Yeah.
And they find maybe that's a better solution.
And what was the name of that inhibitor you use?
We use something called Rust Stop.
Rust Stop.
Yeah. I think there's
Coming
a brand
soon to Blue Dog Blasting.
Yeah. I think there's a brand in the US called similar if you're aware.
Hold
We've got a
tight.
couple of them.
Hold Tight is the brand. Yeah, it's very similar to that. Very similar.
We've got Hold Tight on the Blue Dog Blasting website as well as Express Chem. But I think everybody tries to make their own, whether it's just all made the same and then they get to brand it themselves or what. But I know Dustless Blast sells their Dustless Blast Rust Inhibitor, and I've seen a couple others on the market that I think it's more of a just throw your name on it type of thing.
I think it's a lot of reverse engineering and then throwing your name on. I'd be curious, the Rust Stop, what is the guaranteed or average protection rate for that?
Well, it's very similar to Hold Tight. I would recommend Hold Tight. It's been proven to not react with primers and things like that. So Hold Tight would probably be the best in the US to afford that.
Gotcha.
Cool. So obviously OSHA is a big thing, and it's over there as well. And you guys have a whole lot of land by the sea, as we'll call it. So with all the ports and docks and boats and everything, you guys have some pretty stringent regulations, which kind of makes vapor blasting a necessity for you because you can't have all your dust floating out to sea.
Yeah, we do. We actually had one of our machines down at the Heart of the Wolf shipyards, if you know, where Titanic was made. And they do a lot of maintenance to car ferries and ro-ros and things like that. But quite often, the regulation states that there shouldn't be dust, obviously, where there's other workers in the area, but they always seem to have an application for dry blasting, especially when they have two workers with breathing protection on, one painting behind the other blasting. And a lot of people use ultra high pressure water jet now for paint stripping, but there's always that need for blasting where you need a surface profile and to get the adherence for primers and things like that.
Does your unit, so Shawn, you might have to help me out on this, I guess. So dustless blasting, they're able to call it dustless because what's the number, up to 92% or at least 90%, 2%?
92%, I think it is.
Yeah. Do you guys meet that standard with the wet
we
side?
We do, yeah. We don't call it dustless because I don't believe there is such thing as dustless blasting, but because you're obviously blowing other contaminants in the area up with your whatever you're expelling. But yeah, our dust suppression from the media would be 92%.
Go ahead and say it, Shawn. Dust less.
Less.
Dust less. Yeah.
As in less dust.
Less dust. Yeah, absolutely.
We already kind of covered the abrasives that you're able to use pretty much anything in your pot. Do you have any grit size regulation on that?
We'd recommend no grits larger than 2.5 millimeter, but we get right up to the heaviest sort of abrasive we can use.
Gotcha. Yeah, we have couple machines that you can only go so big with them, and you know, with the dry pot, hell, if you can open up your valve, throw it in, man.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, we also offer two sizes of actual abrasive meter. So we have a standard 3/4 inch type valve, so we can cater for all types of abrasive.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to kind of salesman geek out here. One of my favorite parts of the job, other than solving problems and helping customers and developing relationships, is taking a plant tour. So obviously, I'm not going to get on a plane and fly whatever 9 hours to see your tool.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Oh, I would love to, but we got some work to do here, Shawn. And social distancing, we got to keep that in mind. But yeah, so these plant tours I love doing them. I was doing some research the last couple of days, the Google Maps, trying to find your location. I keep coming on this place called CDE Global, and I think one of your employees actually works for, I don't know, both companies.
Yeah, that's right. We work within the factory. We're a separate company, but we work within CD Global as a separate manufacturer. Yeah.
So they do wet processing of sands and aggregates and stuff. Does that have anything to do with abrasive media for you guys, or is that just a coincidence that?
No, it's just a coincidence. We work within their factory. We rent some space from them. They're a separate company, but yeah. So we avail of some of their services. Put it that way.
Gotcha. Let me continue this plant tour, Shawn. So can you tell me about the space that you rent from them? What kind of equipment, what employees, what do you guys do actually? And do you do the whole thing in-house?
Yeah, we have a medium-sized unit. We do everything from design to manufacture in-house. We cut, fold, fabricate in-house. We do our own machining. And quality testing, we do that all in-house, yeah. So we have full control over our quality process.
Nice.
Do you, which I'm always a big fan of controlling every step of the operation so that you can tweak anything as necessary. Do you have any third-party tests that get done to like pressure certifications or anything like that?
Yeah, well, we self-certify our equipment. All of our designs are under the sound engineering practice for the PED. We don't have pressure vessels, obviously, but we are largely exempt from the standard ASME type ratings that you'll see with pressure pots and things like that.
Gotcha.
So I'm looking at the clock here, and they're about to log us out here in the next 7 to 8 minutes. So I got 2 questions I want to ask you, and then Shawn will get us out of here.
Okay.
The first is, I ask this a lot of mobile blasters, but I'll ask you because you are a business owner. Let's just say for some reason the government or you got an inheritance or a genie came out of a bottle and gave you $500,000, but you had to invest it in your business. Where would that money go? Would it go to, new equipment, facilities, extra labor force, or what kind of toys would you invest in to grow your business?
I suppose if I had a bit more money into the business, it would probably go towards streamlining production to make the equipment cheaper for our customers. But so far, we're doing the best we can to get the prices as low as we can.
Gotcha. And then my final question is, what's next? What can we expect from Flowtech International in the future? You got any plans for branching out to different type of equipment, different kind of parts, or?
Yes, well, we're harnessing our technology. We're designing blast cabinets now. We're miniaturizing our dual induction principles down to the smaller types for blast cabinets. We're bringing out our rental unit, the 300C, the diesel operated unit. We have tandem dual outlet pots coming soon for larger contractors, both wet and dry. And we also have a range of portable abrasive recovery systems and storage hoppers for the machines coming shortly.
I specifically want to ask about the wet cabinets. I'll try to rush through this, but what is it going to be? The same kind of style, the dual induction, or is it going to be suction style, pressure style?
Dual induction, yeah.
Induction. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. coming soon. Yeah.
We're going to send you some parts and get the GoPro out and have you do them for us. I want to see these things in action.
Yeah. Nothing
I
gets
think we
launched
just
until,
figured.
until it's completely leveled out and proven. Yeah, so.
Cool.
I think we just figured out episode 10.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jason, it's been a pleasure, man. The CEO,
Yes,
the owner, Flowtech Technologies. Make sure you check them out. Like Kevin said, all that information is going to be listed down below. Obviously, we're here on YouTube, so any comments, questions, critiques, throw them down below. Make sure you subscribe and like the YouTube page. Get your notifications set so that when we do this again, you're the first one to be aware of it. And we've really enjoyed having you, Jason, Kevin. Awesome. If anybody wants anything, you know, guys, how to get a hold of us. As always, get out there and blast.
Get out there and blast. Thanks, Jason, for joining us.
And you. Thanks, Kevin.
Blue Dog Radio. Get out there and blast. Or whatever. I don't care.